Yes, we are doing our little dance. We're jamming. It's Wednesday. It's not Friday. It's Wednesday, but we're still here for Dattitude, episode number 179, talking about the Saints on a short week. And I'm doing my best just to talk at all. I am Jim Derry, along with Larry Holder. And Larry, I hope you don't mind taking up most of the slack this morning.
Well, if anyone knows me and my history within this media market, they know I can talk and do it for a long time. And so at least I probably don't have to talk over you.
No, you probably won't.
Times.
Yeah, I could probably still be loud if I have to, but hopefully I won't have to. We are going to talk just about Saints this morning. Obviously, a short week. The show will be shorter than usual, not just because I'm having trouble speaking, but if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in there. We will post them Facebook or YouTube. Just type them in, and we will show them all morning. Larry, what is going on?
Well, I'm curious to see the pulse of Saints fan. I'm sure you've spoken about this already, and it's from just people that I've talked to, and just you're seeing reaction throughout the internetosphere and
the internets,
and it is harsh, I'd say, and I feel like people are actually understanding that the Saints are very fortunate to be 3-3 at this point. They're very fortunate.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, still, I mean, they don't blow the lead in Green Bay. They should have won that game. I mean, I don't know. I really still think they could be 5-1. Groupie makes his field goals last week. As bad as the Saints were, as horrible as the coaching has been, this team could still be 5-1.
Well, they also could have probably lost some games if they actually won. So, you put it in that sense, like they could have lost to Tennessee.
Yes.
Look, it was score-wise. I mean, they won by 1. I mean, here's the thing. If you are playing so poorly on offense, you put yourself in a position to be wondering how good you actually are. And, I think that you see the defense, and they're probably getting to the point to where, what are we doing? We're doing all this work and the offense isn't pulling its weight. And this has happened for at least a year. So you go back to last season. And so, and now look, the Saints are going to be going in. I'm curious to see if Demario Davis plays. So if you're without him, you're in a heap because he's irreplaceable. I've said this before on your podcast. He's the most irreplaceable player on the team. Like, you have nobody who could fill in and do what he does at anywhere near that level. And so, especially against a team where, look, Trevor Lawrence is a little banged up. I'm curious to see if Travis Etienne can stay hot. I mean, if Lawrence is a little banged up, they're going to try to use Etienne as much as they can. And so, but still, it's and they're both teams going in differing directions. Saints have lost 3 of their last 4. You see that the Jaguars have won a bunch in a row, and so they're catching each other at some definitely some crossroad times for each team.
We have had my emails have been definitely clicking up. By the way, if you want to comment on anything and you just want to send it, and I'll read it on the pod, whether it be here on the live show or my regular podcast that comes out every Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Although this week, obviously, we're here on a Wednesday. I will be doing a regular show on Friday. It will not be a live show. It will be a regular pod doing Derry's Dime after Thursday's game, assuming I can talk better than this. Dr. Philip Catarella. Dr. Phil, he writes in, he says, Allen, no fire, no discipline, nice guy. He calls up Pete Carmichael, Charmichael. Can't call plays, adjust, great play chart maker, though. Draft picks, not first year. Training up for Turner, penning, giving draft picks follow-on big bucks contracts, including Ruiz and Pete, kicker roster decisions. The poor play is a result of all of the above. Dr. Phil is not happy.
No, he's definitely dissected this, and he is not happy. And look, it's hard to disagree with a lot of the points there. And here's the thing. Okay, let's say let's say Groupie makes his two kicks against the Saints. They still lose. They still lose 2019. Momentum changes and such. I get it. I know.
They kicked the field goal at the end there. They don't have to get a touchdown.
I get it. I know. I'm just trying to calm down people for Groupie. I mean, he missed one kick going into that game. And without him, you're not 3-3. So that's part.
Oh, I'm not blaming Groupie at all.
Right.
He's like number 21 on the list of crap problems the Saints have.
He might be top 10. He might be top 10.
Maybe. I don't think so. TDB writes in. He says, usually he'd bitch about the dumb voices I do in my show, meaning my normal pop, because I like to say, you do that when I'm talking like I'm Dennis Allen. Usually he'd bitch about the dumb voices I do. And the voice that I have right now, but not today. Coaching and management is garbage. They need to send that kicker back to the land of Lilliputians. That's all for now. That's kind of mean.
Too much against the kicker. Come on. If you're scoring touchdowns in the red zone, you're not relying on the kicker. So that's there you go.
Now you're defending Groupie.
I am defending Groupie.
Okay.
I'm saying like in that game, you still don't like he's not the determining factor of really why you lost last week. But I'm just saying, and you won games because of him. So
here, my thing is, I don't know why people get so pissed off after a week like last week. The Saints are who I've been saying, what we've been saying they are. They're a team that can play and beat a bad team 34-0 1 week. Then they can play an average team the next week on the road and lose. I mean, and we'll see what we think about this week, but they're an average football team with a lower than average coaching staff, doing lower than average coaching staff things, and not making the most out of a roster. Why is anyone surprised?
Because fans have hope. They see a great performance, and you hope it goes forward, and it was not at all really offensively. Like Derek Carr is the king of empty stats. He's like Kirk Cousins. He's like Russell Wilson, the king of the empty stats. He could have these huge numbers, but none of it matters because you can't put points on the board. So so what if he had 350 yards?
You're just hating.
I'm talking reality here. That's the thing.
I'm the one who's supposed to tell it like it is.
What am I supposed to be? Sunshine?
I don't know, but
has that been my MO?
Anyone who comes to this show, and like last week, people were getting pissed off at me because I said I thought the Saints would lose last week. I mean,
I thought they'd win.
I tell it the way that I think that it is. I'm not surprised. This team they are what we thought they would be. A whole bag of mixed nuts. That's what they are. I mean, but this week they could be good again.
They could. Look, it's a short week, and Jacksonville's banged up. There's no doubt about it. Trevor Lawrence isn't the only person dealing with injuries. I know their top corner, Tyson Campbell, it looks like he might not be playing, so that's a good sign. And it looks like the Jaguars' offensive line's a little bit banged up. So look, there are reasons to think that the Saints could go into Thursday night and win. I mean,
for sure.
This isn't a game where it's signed, sealed, delivered that the Saints are going to lose. I mean, I far from it. I mean, look at the spread. I mean, even though it's neutral field, Jacksonville will be favored by what, 1.5?
No, the Saints are favored.
No, I'm saying neutral field, they'd be favored.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So -1 at home. But so it's basically a toss-up game, and that's fine.
We're gonna get into our predictions. I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. I'm gonna make you listen to the real pod for hear my prediction. You'll probably figure out where I'm going with it by the time we get to the end of this. But I have my regular pod today. It is jam-packed. It will have Uncle Big Nick on it as well. We're making our picks, and the Saints Jags game happens to be in my best bets. So it is one of my 5 best bets this week. Again, you'll probably figure out where I'm going with this by the end of the show, but let's wait and see. Taylor Miller says offensive line still the major concern. Defense showed up in the second half. They only gave up 3 points. Offense couldn't take advantage. You get in the red zone, Larry, you got to score.
Oh, no question. I mean, that's been an epidemic for the Saints. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, when you're so beat up and you don't trust the pieces that you got, I mean, you're a total mess on the offensive line. Like, it's worse than it has been this year just because I mean, Cesar Ruiz had to play tackle. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
That should
that was
never have to
terrible.
happen. That should never have to happen. I mean, I
Yeah,
get injuries and such, but still,
you
you're
don't use
benching Penning and
foresight.
then he's got to play. I mean, that's not good.
The coaching and the administration did not use enough foresight to put together a plan. They thought they were okay. They were resting on their laurels at offensive line, and it shows it's coming back to bite them in the ass. You cannot rest on your laurels. There was no reason to think that this offensive line, which was ranked by most people in the bottom 7 to 8 before the season began, that you didn't need to improve there. No, we talked about this before. You want to draft per se with your first pick? Fine. You think defensive line is where you need to go? Fine. I don't agree with you, but fine. But your second pick has got to be an offensive lineman. You can't draft another defensive lineman with your second pick. It made no sense. And Foskey has contributed nada to this team. It's insanely piss poor.
Well, Foskey hasn't had to produce because you're actually getting production from your opposite starting edge rusher. So that's good, at least, that Foskey doesn't have to play. But I get what you're saying here. Well, you're banking on Penning being good. Like you're banking on
insanely dumb.
I don't know if that's insanely dumb, but you're banking on a first round pick that you invested in it. You got to give him a shot. I mean, that's
you don't
just
do trial by fire if you think you can be good. And Dennis Allen used the term trial by fire. If you didn't hear my show on Monday, then fine. But that's I went into that for 5 minutes. You cannot do trial by fire at left tackle if you think your team is good. You do trial by fire on a team you think sucks, and you're going to have a top 10 draft pick next year. That's when you do trial by fire. But no team that's worth a damn does trial by fire at left tackle.
I get it. And yet,
Surrey disagrees, I think, by the way.
But it's just what choice did they have? They were, I mean, like, what were they going to do?
Draft a tackle in the draft.
Draft a tackle and then start the rookie over the second-year player that you drafted. Like,
the worst thing that can happen is if you draft a tackle, okay? If you want to start Penning, fine. If you think he's going to be good enough to start him. But you can't have enough depth on the offensive line. And the Saints didn't have any anyway. I understand you went and got Trey Turner and he got hurt in a week into the camp. You didn't expect that. And you got depth at guard, but you had no tackle depth. James Hurst is not the only insurance. You needed more insurance there. Even if you thought you were okay, you still need more insurance on offensive line. They don't ever. I mean, since Peyton is gone, and I'll say don't ever, it's only been 2 years, but they just completely disregard the O-line. What did Peyton always have here? Great offensive linemen. They have just like tossed it out the window since he's gone.
I will put it to you this way. If you're talking about, all right, look, the Saints draft an offensive lineman. I'm looking up right now what happened in the draft this year. The offensive line top tier players, I mean, they didn't really exist. It was not a great year for offensive linemen. So if your solution was draft an offensive lineman and start him ahead of Penning, it might even be worse than what it is now. You talk about real trial by fire. I mean, that's what it would have been. So, the Saints, like, I think they would just kind of, here's part of the problems. Like, you were kind of stuck with what you have to do and what you had, and you had to lean on your investment at left tackle. Same thing at quarterback. You had to get the best guy that you could in the situation you were handed, and that is Derek Carr. And Derek Carr is middle of the road. And I've said it a million times, he's top 12 at best. He is Kirk Cousins, literally in the story I have today, in my through 6 weeks of the season. Kirk Cousins in the rankings using metrics and such.
Kirk Cousins has time to throw the ball.
Kirk Cousins is 17, Derek Carr is 18. They're the same guy. I mean,
Kirk Cousins has time to throw the ball.
But even when Derek Carr has had time to throw it in the past, they're the same guy. Like, the ceiling is the same. Like, so it's look, I get all of what you're saying. Like, the offensive line's not good. I'm not trying, but let's, Derek Carr's not great either. So it's all a struggle. But if he had more time to throw the ball, that would also, if your offensive line was better, you could probably run the ball better. So you add it all up, and it would help success on the offensive side of football. But there's no solution right now Like, so
No, there's not. You're stuck.
this whole year.
100%. You're stuck. You put yourself in this place where you're stuck. I mean, so in answer to your question, would I just give up on Trevor Penning? Yeah, he sucks. I mean, it only took 5 games to saw that he was terrible. I mean, I'm sorry. If you screw up, if you go and you make a bad bet, okay, and you see it's a bad bet, do you bet on the same team the next week? I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if they suck, you don't bet on them again. It's a bad bet. Penning was terrible. You can just admit you made a bad pick and move on. Not saying you got to cut him.
You can admit it after this year. Like, you got to give him a viable chance.
We got to watch this crap for another 11
Well, they
games.
benched him. Here's the thing. They benched him, so they're trying not to play him. They didn't want to play him last week, so they're trying to do what you're asking. They're trying not to play him.
Yeah, well, guess what? The old trial. Dennis Allen, somebody gave him truth serum. Trial by fire. Well, guess what? Fire, buddy. That's the key word. You're gonna get fired. I mean, you're gonna go down with the ship with Pete Carmichael. You and Pete Carmichael, you can use the trial by fire. You're the one that's gonna get fired. Trevor Penning will probably still be here next year as a backup. You'll be fired. So there you go. So yes,
I don't think Dennis will be fired, but
so yes, Dennis Henderson. My nerves are aggravated.
There will be a fall guy. It'll be Pete Carmichael. It could be Doug Marrone. I mean, their offensive line coach. Like, those guys could be the fall guys, and then you fire the head coach. Like, we've seen that in
multiple Saints and multiple. One thing I've said 1,000 times: the Bensons are loyal to a fault, and I mean to a fault, like the San Andreas fault. So I mean, Dennis, this team's gonna have to go 6-11 for Allen to be fired. That's how bad. I mean, seriously.
No, I agree. They have to, because here's the thing. Like, we're saying all of this, and they're a half game out of first place. Tampa's going to run into a tougher stretch of the schedule.
That's true.
Tampa
still the best team in the division.
I would agree there. I think they've underachieved a little bit.
Zero doubt.
They're still the team that should win the division. So
I agree.
You're not going to fire the head coach if that happens.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I agree. Look, the Saints are plus 160 right now to win the division. That is, like, to me, in my opinion, free money. As bad as the Saints are, I think they win this division easily when all is said and done. I think Tampa Bay is highly overrated. I think it's the Saints or Atlanta right now. And am I betting on Desmond Ritter? Hell no. Hell no. So, I mean, Dennis is saying the season ticket. Nope. You're wrong, Dennis. They don't give a damn. I mean, I know they care about it, but that's not going to change. That won't change one iota. Ticket sales drop. Jim Haslett sucked. They kept Jim Haslett. The only reason why they fired him is Katrina came here and they went 3-13. It's literally the only reason why he got fired. They don't care about that. This week, let's get to Jacksonville. We talked about it a little bit. Trevor Lawrence banged up. Even if he plays, he's going to play with a knee brace on his left knee. How will it affect him? How will it affect Jacksonville?
I definitely think it will affect him. I mean, look, he's certainly known to be a mobile guy. Well, just heads up, breaking news as we're doing this, that the Colts officially will shelve Anthony Richardson for the year. So whenever they face the Colts, it'll be Gardner Minshew, which will happen
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So, so
Week
that's
8.
happening. That's happening right now. But yeah, look, definitely Lawrence is known for his mobility, so that could affect things. And then, like I said earlier, they've been able to lean on Travis Etienne a lot lately. Let's see if the Saints, they know that's going to be coming, see if they can hold up there. And so, yeah, look, I think, and Lawrence has been good at times and not so good at times. People are going to think I'm nuts, but I mean, I'm just, a lot of the rankings I did that in my story that's out today it's metrics based. And believe it or not, Derek Carr is rated higher than Trevor Lawrence.
Really? Well, I agree with that. But I find that interesting.
By a couple of spots. Couple of spots. A lot of it is Trevor Lawrence struggles on third down and some other situations. So like his quarterback rating is 8 points higher, but his EPA rate is a couple of ticks lower. He also struggles more against He struggles against the blitz. Not great on third down. So a lot of that is situational in those terms. But he's kind of helped will them to wins, and I mean, that's something that Jacksonville's defense is certainly
average
is.
at best.
It's not bad, but it's not great. But
they're a mixed they're a mixed bag. Here's why I would agree with what my naked eye would agree with your assessment, because if you look at their passing offense, they're 12th. Their offensive line is much better than the Saints' offensive line. Although, again, like you said, they have injuries. So will they be this week? I'm not sure. The Saints' passing offense is 15th in the NFL, and Derek Carr's had no time to throw the ball, which is why people need to. I mean, I'm talking about everybody. Stop blaming Derek Carr for anything. It's not Derek Carr's fault at all. I mean, you could take the best quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes would have to do Patrick Mahomes kind of things with this offensive line.
I'm not going to say Derek Carr gets zero blame, but the byproduct of the offensive line, I don't care who's back there. If you're getting pressure, imagine if like someone like, say, Tom Brady's back there who's not super mobile, or Peyton Manning was back there. I mean, it'd be a pinata. So,
that's true.
Yeah. So it's, I get what you're saying, but Derek Carr isn't blameless. I mean, but he's had a
way down the list, down the list.
He's down the list. You could point to 1 through 5 and name every offensive lineman. And
Barry writes in and says the Saints need to go 6-5 to have a winning season. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be tough, Barry. If you haven't looked at the schedule, the Saints literally have the easiest remaining schedule, I think, of any team in the NFL. So they play some awful quarterbacks going down the stretch. The quarterback they were supposed to play Thursday, whether they play him or not, is probably the best one they got left, unless you want to say Kirk Cousins is better. They play some bad quarterbacks going down the rest of the way. So I think going 6, if the Saints only go 6-5 the rest of the way, they played like absolute dog doo-doo. Okay? That's my opinion. But so I don't think it's going to be tough. And B, you might not need a winning record to win this division. The Saints, 8-9 might be good enough.
I'm going through the schedule right now. As of right now, I think the Saints have 2 games against teams with a winning record.
Yeah.
I don't think the Rams are a winning record, and it's the only one in question. I mean, you play Atlanta twice.
Here, I'll show this. I have my old
Tampa's 3. Tampa's still
there's the old schedule from before. It's no different now, so I can still show it.
Yeah.
We just don't have the results on there, and so Indianapolis again. You're talking about without Anthony Richardson, Saints beat Gardner Minshew last year. Chicago's terrible. Their defense is awful. They're a 1-win football team that's lost 15 of their last 16 games. Minnesota's not any good. Atlanta, we know Atlanta, they're average at best. Detroit's very good. So Jared Goff is actually the best quarterback they'll face. Carolina, the Giants, the Rams, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, all stink. So to me, the only good teams on there are Jacksonville and Detroit. Those are the only 2 good teams on there.
But you're also banking on the Saints not like stubbing their toe against someone like, say, Carolina. Say if Bryce Young's starting to put it together by that point in time. Like, say, I don't know, say the Falcons move on to Taylor Heineke and they're better. Like, some of these things, but I get your point. Like, you look at roster to roster, like the Saints are more talented than
everyone on there except Detroit.
Everyone except
Detroit. Maybe Jackson. Maybe Jacksonville's 1-1. Right. So to answer Dennis's question and to go on what Barry said a little bit, I am telling you right now, as down as I've been, as pissed off as I am, I'd be very surprised if the Saints don't win 9 games. Very surprised that they should win 9 games against that crappy schedule. So yes, I expect them to beat teams like the Giants. Expect them to beat the Falcons. Expect them to beat Tampa Bay again, like they didn't the first time. So that's my answer to that.
Say if we just routed off games, say they lose 4 the rest of the way, then what are they?
10-6, 10-7,
10-7, right? And that's the thing. Like the Saints are still in this, and it's weird.
They're in it because their defense alone is going to keep them in this thing.
Oh, for sure. Like, well, like stay healthy. I mean, that's the thing. But it's something that it's a weird, probably set of emotions for Saints fans, knowing that they're not in the talk of winning a Super Bowl.
No,
They're in the talk of winning a
never
bad
were.
division, and then that's it. So it's kind of like, hooray for 10th place in the NFL.
You look,
Hooray.
you take what you can get. It beats 7-10. It does. It beats 7-10. I mean, I know people want them to lose on purpose, which is completely asinine. You don't ever root for a team to lose, ever. You don't ever root for your team. Oh, if they lose this game, they'll get just because they get a better pick in number doesn't mean they're going to do the right thing with it. So you don't ever root for your team to lose. You could have the number 1 pick and the number 12 pick might be better. You might be better off with the 12th pick. Who knows? So anyway, I hate losing on purpose. People say that just absurdly stupid, in my opinion. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying. Saints this week against the Jaguars. I do think it's a good matchup. The Saints should be able to throw. We had a comment about throwing the ball more downfield. I do. Look, they're already 31st against the pass. They lose. They're without the top corner. I don't think they have a great pass rush anyway. I think the Saints ought to be able to throw some deep balls. This is, if you play DFS, Olave might be a good pick on Thursday night.
The one person that can affect the game defensively in a pass rush is Josh Allen. Other than that, it's not great. I'm wondering. You talk about missing on a pick. You think Jacksonville's saying, man, this Trevon Walker guy, maybe we should have gone with the number 2 pick, Aiden Hutchinson, who was a monster in college and is now a monster in the NFL and helping Detroit be a legit contender in the NFC and actually to get to the Super Bowl, maybe win the thing. That's going to be one of those, like, what is it? Greg Oden, Kevin Durant picks, one of those things where it's just like, what happened there?
For sure. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. And look, Jacksonville's made their share of mistakes. Trust me, they just goes to show. Getting the number 1 pick or a top 5 pick even doesn't mean you're going to do the right thing with it. So why would you root for your team to lose? Who you think they're going to get? They can get Caleb Williams. So what? How do you know? First of all, they're not going to go out and get a quarterback. They're spending $40 million a year in Derek.
They've already won too many games to have that.
Exactly. Not going to happen. Valerie says they should bring over Hunter Renfrow. Isn't being used. Get him for a 6th-round pick. Maybe he could work the middle of the field. Has a great chemistry with Derek Carr. Kind of said that before the season started. I think it's too late now. The trade deadline over.
No, hasn't. It's not over yet. It's coming up though, quick. I think in the next week and a half. But yeah, look, he's someone who I would think like. Well, here's the thing. Okay, you get Hunter Renfrow. I get it. He would fit in the offense. But if you don't have time to throw him the football, what are you going to do? I mean, that's.
Yeah, if they want to get anything, they ought to go get a lineman, which they're not going to do, by the way. They're just, first of all, there really aren't any linemen to get. I never understood why they didn't go try to get Lyle Collins. I mean, is that dude that
he's still floating out there?
I mean, why is he? I mean, first of all, he can't be any worse than what's going on. Valerie says Halloween's a trade deadline. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So, but still, I don't. I mean, to me, that's what I would love to see them do at the trade deadline. Go get an offensive lineman. We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you, on our league-wide outlook of players each team could trade.
Yeah.
No one named an offensive lineman. So guess what? There's none.
No, there are right.
And there's none available. Like, here's the thing. Here's a tradable offensive lineman that, like, the Saints could sucker someone in to get Andres Pete by name recognition, Pro Bowl accolades, whatever you want to call it alone. But I mean, that's not happening.
Nah, that's ship sailed. I mean, that's another, you want another example 157 of why this administration has just been awful since Sean Payton left. I mean, you pay Andres Pete, what, $54 million? You insane? Are you insane? I mean, and people get, I mean, a lot of times I blow people off with some of the things they say and roll my eyes, but how can you roll your eyes at Andres Pete? Who pays $54 million?
That was a bad deal from the start. I've never drafting him was a bad deal from the start. So much so where Sean, because this is
8 years later, we're still talking about it.
Back when I was when in the Times Picayune at the time, as a Saints columnist, I panned the pick, and Sean Payton years and years and years later said he wanted to call me up the next morning and choke me through the phone because I ripped the pick, and I'm not wrong. Sorry, not wrong.
No, you're not. He said, Dennis says Anderson might have had some dirt on somebody. Look, Charles, look, here's my thing. You talk about being more optimistic. I'm not optimistic. I've been a realist my entire life. You can people hate me when I say the Saints suck when they're doing well and don't get too excited. And sometimes when they're doing bad, they're really not doing that bad. I mean, think about there's probably 12 other teams, maybe more than 12, that would much rather be the Saints than the team they have. New England sucks. They would rather be the Saints right now. I mean, you want to go through the list. The Giants suck. They'd rather be the Saints right now. The Panthers suck. They'd rather be. I mean, you go to a whole list of teams. So it's not that bad. They're 3-3. They're not good, but I think their talent is better than average. Their execution is way worse than average. So you look at the numbers on the screen. Again, defense alone is going to keep them in the games. And this week's probably no different.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be toss-up games, though. Like Atlanta games are going to be toss-up.
They're not going to lose all the toss-up games.
No, they're not. But that's the thing. You can't say, all right, you play Atlanta, you're going to win. Like, that's a toss-up game. Tampa's going to be a toss-up game. It's the Rams are going to be a toss-up game. Like, so you could say, all right, they could have a slight edge on teams, but a lot of these games are going to be more toss-up games just because the Saints are average and a lot of these other teams are around the Saints, little worse, maybe a little smidge better, depending on where we're catching each team within the season. And so talent-wise, you would think the Saints are better, but execution-wise, if you're not doing it, what good is your talent? So I think it comes down more to that than the people you actually have on the roster.
All right. Well, I have a monologue still to put. I'm going to tell you again, my official pick is going to come in the regular podcast. Go search podcasts wherever you get them. Search for Dattitude. You will find it there. And I mean anywhere, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you look for your podcast, search for Dattitude. That's where my pick is going to be. That being said, I'll give you a spoiler alert. Again, it's a bad spot, Larry, for the Jaguars. And the reason why it's a bad spot for the Jags, not just because of Trevor Lawrence and their other injuries, but they spent 10 days in London. They come back. They get a home game against a division foe that they beat the crap out of. Every time they play them at home, even when they're bad, they beat them. And now they got to go on the road in a short week after all of that stuff. It's a much better spot for the Saints coming home after 4 out of 5 on the road than it is for Jacksonville.
Well, I'm picking the Jaguars after all of what you just said. I just don't trust the Saints. I mean, that's just it.
But you trust Jacksonville?
Yes, I trust them more than I do the Saints. And look, they're won 3 in a row. Beat Buffalo along the way. I'm just coming down to who do I trust more, and I trust Jacksonville more right now. It might not be by a ton, but that's what I'm doing. And that's I'm taking Jacksonville.
Hey, well, we've differed before, and I'm not saying we're different now, but one thing I like to look at, especially about this time of year when we start getting to a point where you are what your record says you are, and I think we're there. I think pretty much when you get to the third poll, you are what your record says you are. You are what your rankings say you are. You Jaguars, you add them up, 21-13 is 34. So the lower the number, the better. The Saints, you add up 20 and 5, you get 25. I think the Saints are a better football team than the Jaguars. They were a 3-point favorite. Now that it's known that Lawrence probably will play and went back to -1, we'll see. I will say this. I think this is the week that streak of 12 in a row, the under hitting, is over. I actually think they're going to be points scored in this game.
I didn't predict a score. I guess I should predict a score.
Yeah, you should.
All right. I will go Jacksonville 27, Saints 20.
All right. Well, what are you going to do? You won't be on Dattitude on Friday this week. It's going to be weird for you, I know.
I'll be on TV again. That doesn't change.
You will be on TV. In fact, you're going to be on TV at like the time you would normally do Dattitude, right?
Yes, which is partially why we're doing it today. But I mean, like, otherwise we would have done it. Maybe I don't know. We would have done a post game, but we always preview it. So I don't know. It would have been up to you, my friend.
I just hope my voice is back by Friday. So if they do choke and they stink, that I can do what I do best, and that's like yell at a microphone with no one here. My daughters were home last Friday because they were off of school, and they're like, "Daddy, you were in there. There's nobody in there, and you're yelling. Who are you yelling at?" I was yelling at the thousands of people that listen to Dattitude. Valerie says before we go, she says, "I hope I'm assuming she means the Saints is 4-3 mini bye. It is a mini bye. They can fix some things. When's Jawan Johnson coming back? Do we know?
That I don't know.
Jamal Williams should be back after this week. That'll help the Saints running game. You would think the offensive line's going to get healthier. They go to the Colts. They have their own issues. Who knows? Maybe it'll get better. Maybe I'll get better. Maybe we'll all get better. Who knows?
Maybe we'll get better in agreeing on a pick, because we've conflicted a few times this year. And on our conflicting, it's like it's really been 50-50, where like I've been right once, you've been right once when we conflict, but it's really just been a season of who knows what Saints team's coming out. I mean,
we'll say this: it's a season on the brink. This is a crucial time in this series, crucial moment. The Saints either start playing football, or some of our writers, commenters are right. It's not going to matter. If you don't start playing football now, you can't do what you did last year and just kind of like fade off into the sunset and decide, okay, wait, now we want to play ball and we'll be better.
I'm wondering, and I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but if the Saints offense is awful on Thursday night and you're at sort of a mini bye week, do you make a change then?
Look,
it's got to be on the table.
I will say, it's definitely on the table. And I would say, look, reading through the tea leaves, I think Dennis Allen realizes what I've been saying and what you've kind of cryptically been saying without saying it. Do you want to go down with the Pete Carmichael ship? That's the question I ask. I think he realizes that he doesn't want to. So I think that if they have a really bad offensive week again, I think it's possible. And I think you elevate Ronald Curry to OC.
That would be the move. I mean, like we've seen, it's happened before involving Dennis Allen, but it's been a minute. But yeah, and that was going into a bye week where they made a change at the coordinator. But that was a tipping point. I mean, this could be a tipping point. I mean, that's something that, like I said, if the Saints offensively struggle, I mean, that has to be on the table. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it wouldn't be a stunner if it did. If they scored like 13 points and were miserable again, I mean, come on.
And lose 23-13. Yeah, I mean, you got to make a change. Look, right. I've said it before, Dennis Allen gets fired this time, not getting a head coaching job ever again. This is the last one. Last one. So you better treat this one with like your life depends on it. If you love doing this, I mean, if you don't care and you're okay with being a coordinator, then sure, go ahead, stink it up. That's up to you. But we'll see. All right. Well, we'll talk to you a week from Friday. A long break for you too, my friend. Did I freeze up?
Oh, I thought you were stopping it.
No, I was going to, but I was going to give you
good live moment.
I was going to give you the chance to say goodbye before we,
Goodbye.
See you later, everybody. Don't forget to go search for the podcast, Dattitude, wherever you get your podcast. And Friday, I hope I can talk. We'll see y'all next week. Peace and love.